Well, good morning from me, good afternoon or good evening to you, wherever you may be. What a cool meeting, and how lucky for me that I get to sit and listen to two badass stories of recovery before I have to share my own. It's been really fun to listen, and I relate so much to everything that's been said. I feel like I must have grown up with June Lee. Shannon and I are hanging out right now in the same spot. Everything Sunny wrote down, I've related to. So maybe I'm an alcoholic and I'm in the right place. Must be the takeaway from that. I picked the joy of living as my topic, and I'll tell you such a funny story about how this came around. Sanjeev contacted me to see if I would be willing to come. Of course, who doesn't want to go speak at a meeting in India? And asked what my topic would be. And when he asked, I was at the beginning of summer and I was looking forward to, I live in California, but I'm an East Coast girl. I'm from Philadelphia. And I was going to go visit my family in Philadelphia and travel with, I'm married, and my husband's family was going to come with us. And we were going to take our niece and nephew to New York. And my son just moved into an apartment. I'm going to see my son. And I had so much to look forward to. And after that trip, we were going to come home to this beautiful new house that we just bought and have my niece stay with us and go to LA. Oh my God, just so much summer and fun, just like woohoo, party, bring it on. So I thought I want to talk about the joy of living. And now that I'm back, I caught myself last week on an AA meeting, realizing that I am overwhelmed with resentment. I'm short tempered. I'm irritated by everything. And you know what happened? All that good stuff happened to me. And I was so focused on me and what's happening to me, and I had lost the joy of living. And what a freaking trap that was. I mean, it really was an eye opener. Like, what is the joy of living really about? It's not about what's going on out here and what I get and what I'm doing. It's about what's going on in here. And I was speaking with my husband last night, and I was like, what would you talk about? And he said, oh, the joy of living. That's the theme of the 12th step. And I was like, that's it. That's it, honey bunny. The joy of living is truly about living spiritually awake. And I had that hard realization that even when things are going good for me, if I'm not paying attention and spiritually awake, I'm in trouble. And I suffer from it. So I'm really excited to see where we go with that a little further right now. Of course, we always start about talking about what a disaster we were. I mean, if my drinking had worked for me, I would still be in bed right now. I wouldn't be in AA. So something happens. What I do know about alcoholism, everything I learned about understanding it, I learned in sobriety. And I just suffered from it until I figured out that I even was an alcoholic. Um, just like June, I started drinking at the age of 11. I love that June Lee's topic was potential alcoholic, but yet if you listen to her story, she had been drinking since 11 and 15 and 19 and wreckage and wreckage and wreckage. And like what I know is they are signs and symptoms of the malady. And I know that for me too. Um, and I didn't know I was an alcoholic till it was really too late to do anything about it. I had way crossed into the world where by the time I came to AA, I was 34 years old. My drinking career was long. I actually thought that I was a drug addict. I didn't even understand that alcoholism was the crux of all of my problems. I did not understand the spiritual malady. What? Are you kidding me? Like I have a spiritual malady? But I learned all that in recovery. And then you work the steps when you get here, and it kind of stops the insanity, puts a pause on it, and it allows us to learn new tools to put into our life. And what happens when we learn those new tools? Guess what? They're spiritual in nature. It's not like, you know, if you want to go run a mile, you like start training. It's spiritual stuff about the way that I have an attitude towards life, my understanding of the truth as it's happening to me. Spiritual malady, what I know today, is a disease of perception. I have no idea of what the truth is in the moment I'm in it. I can't see. I don't have no objectivity. I'm either acting too big or too small. I have no humility. And all of these things are really like broad concepts, but I'll share some specific details of what it looked like for me, and maybe you could relate to some of them. Um, I'm going to work this around. I don't know if anybody in here has done inventory in step 4. And the thing I loved about doing inventory is it gave me a way to like process events in my life and look at a way to release all of that external stuff and just stay focused on what's going on with me in a way that will make me effective in reversing it. And I love in that inventory, it asks us to look at where we selfish, where we self-centered, or self-seeking, where we dishonest, and where we frightened. And like, are you kidding me? Like everything in my life could be boiled down to those 4 things. It's that easy. Yeah, it really is. I mean, it has been for me. So when I was drinking, a lot of insanity, right? Example of my selfishness. Um, like I said, I grew up in Philadelphia. I lived there till about 16 years ago. And when I was there, I had a lot of, you know, I thought I was a fun party girl. I don't know if you guys remember the show Sex in the City. That was my time period, the early 90s, were when I was really rocking and rolling with my alcoholism, and I thought it was still fun. I met a man. Uh, I started a career and we had a baby, and our relationship never really lasted past having that son. So I have been single momming pretty much my whole life with my son. And what my alcoholism would look like was I could not show up for this kid. And I would think I was doing the best I could, being a good mom, and I was always a victim of my circumstances. And I would let this kid walk himself to school. He was a little kindergartner. I grew up, and where we lived was not a great neighborhood. You might call it the ghetto. And I would send this little 5-year-old on his way to walk himself to kindergarten, almost a mile, and just trust that the crossing guards would help him because I couldn't get out of bed. I was hungover all the time. And I remember specifically one time I was living with my grandma, couldn't hold a job, was really relying on her to help me meet my needs. And one time I had $20 and I was like, I'm going to go to the bar and I'm going to have some margaritas. And I borrowed my grandma's car and I went to the bar and I figured I'll just have one drink before I have to go pick my kid up from school. And that one drink, you know how this goes, right? That one drink, can't just have one. It turned into multiple drinks. And I realized that I better leave. And I got into a fender bender on the way home to go pick my son up from school in my grandmother's car. And I didn't even believe that it was my fault. And I was arguing with the woman on the side of the road, and we decided we will pull off. We pulled into the police station, just happened to be the only place to pull over. I'm so blind to what's going on with me and my part in this incident that I thought, yeah, let's pull over into the police station. Well, guess what happened? The police came out, broke up the fight, and wanted to arrest me for drunk driving. And, I just kind of bullied my way into like, well, I have to go get my kid from school. You can't arrest me. I'm not drunk. And their solution was to drive me in the back of a police car to go pick my son up from school. So that's kind of a terrible, terrible childhood memory for a sweet little 5-year-old innocent child to have his mom come pick him up from school in the back of a police car. I mean, it wasn't fun. And not only that, but my grandmother's car was impounded and I never took ownership for any of that. So that's just one little everyday example of selfishness in the life of an alcoholic. So, dishonesty, that grandmom that I lived with, I stole from her all the time. It was so terrible that she would keep her money on her in her bathrobe and keep her purse on her at all times because I just couldn't be trusted. And I would get on my hands and knees and crawl into her bedroom when she was asleep and stick my hand in her bathrobe and steal money out of her wallet. And one time I had charged up so much on her credit card, getting like cash back thing. And I got a little bit afraid that maybe the credit card company would call. So I cut the phone line. Talk about insanity. So the day I cut the phone line, so the credit card company can't call and report the fraud that's been going on by me in her house, living in her house. She comes home from the doctor with her best friend. So these two sweet little old ladies are sitting around waiting for the doctor to call them with very important test results. And the phone is dead. And they're asking me, can I help? And I come down and I, with my best poker face, with all sincerity, try to help these women figure out what happened with the phone. Can you believe that level of dishonesty? That's alcoholism, you guys. That's alcoholism. You want to talk about self-seeking, what it looked like in my life? When I moved to California, I finally figured out that I was an alcoholic. When I showed up here, I could not stop drinking. I mean, it had been, remember Sex in the City, or it had been like Cosmos at the bar at night, maybe some Bloody Marys at brunch in the morning, masked by some other stuff. And when I moved to California, this is what my life looked like. I was a chronic daily drinker. My hands would shake in the morning. I'd have panic and anxiety and terror, and my heart would pound down in my chest until I had a drink of alcohol, which I would have as soon as my eyes would open. I would not be able to control that drinking once it started, even though it would provide relief. I would have the obsession where I just had to keep drinking, drinking, drinking. I was a disgusting mess. I mean, what that usually looked at like was blacking out or being a blubbering, babbling idiot, or totally straight. The effects of alcohol were really unpredictable for me. So I moved to California in 2005, and immediately that was my drinking lifestyle. And I tried things to control my drinking, one of which I thought would be to get a boyfriend. And I got into a relationship, and I started dating a guy who was an alcoholic, just like me. And I even remember thinking, like, I'm too good for this guy. And you know why I'm too good for this guy? Because I know I'm not at the top of my game. And if he would date me, then I am too good for him. Like, I wouldn't even date me right now. What a loser. What crazy twisted thinking. But that was just where I was living. Little picture of this relationship, the stuff that I would go through, and the relationship that I stayed in because I wanted to make me feel better about me. I thought that if I could find love from another human being, that I would gain some self-esteem and be able to stop drinking. What this relationship, the way that I was looking to find love, was to stay with an alcoholic man. We were both wild animals, and a typical Friday night for us looked like we would go to the bar. This is a true story, this one. We went to the bar one night, had a couple drinks. I'd start, me, you're not good enough. Why are you doing this? Why don't you call me more? You should take me out. And he would be like, shut up. And we'd start fighting. And he left the bar, and I proceeded to chase him. Now, granted, we didn't drive to the bar that night. We walked, but we like ran, fought through the town of Brentwood where I got sober, beating each other up, punching each other, strangling each other, made it back to his house, had a huge knockdown brawl, like seriously, like bite marks were all over his face, and I had choke marks and bruises and a black eye all down mine. The cops came. I went home, and this was just a normal night in our relationship. You know what happened one morning? That after the night of that specific incident, I had to fly back to Philadelphia the very next morning because I was a bridesmaid in my brother's wedding. So talk about pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. If you were to ever visit my sweet brother's house and look at his wedding photos, I have a huge black eye and choke marks in the bridal party of his wedding photo. And this is just normal life to me. And I don't even need to give you examples of fear because I didn't realize that I had it. But everything that I had done in pre-sobriety was a motive of fear, was a way to cover up fear, was a way to comfort myself. And it all was about changing the way I felt because it was never good enough. It was never okay. I never felt like I was going to have enough, get enough, or be okay in the moment. And the way that I had learned starting to drink at age 11 was you can change that by drinking, can change the way you feel. And if you're an alcoholic and you have that spiritual malady set up and that obsession and that allergy, you're in trouble, baby. You're in big trouble. And that's where I found myself. So what happened? That boyfriend got sober. He went to AA. He started to get 30 days. And I thought, I'm hanging out with you because if you're getting sober, I'm going to get sober through you. And that didn't work. But I did start going to AA meetings. And what happened when I started going to AA meetings was something within me just broke. That desperation just kicked in, and I was like, I'm here for this. This is my last shot. I cannot live this exhausting lifestyle 1 second more. I don't care if I have to be sober for the rest of my life. I don't care if I never have a fun moment again, but I just need some relief from the way that I'm feeling right now. and something changed within me. I know a lot of people have different stories of that, that gift of grace we get when we come in and we do the steps and we admit to ourselves that we're an alcoholic and we truly understand how powerless we are over it. And we have a moment of clarity where we see the insanity that it's been causing in our lives. And you work through the steps and you learn to have a relationship. For me, it started with a relationship with a power other than myself. And then that power became greater than myself. And then I looked at who I was in the world and my behaviors and my part in it. And I learned things to supplant those behaviors and have different experiences. I learned about service. I learned about taking service commitments, showing up for other people, saying yes. And you know what happened? I started to have an awareness of gratitude that I am okay in this moment. I had a spiritual awakening, you guys. And that's what it looked like. I would have the same triggery crap happen to me. Work is hard. My kid is bad. I have too much on my plate. I don't know if I'm going to pay the bills. The same triggery crap would happen to me, and I'm not drinking over it. And as a matter of fact, I'm having a different reaction to it. That's a spiritual awakening. It's plain and simple. And what an amazing thing to have that. So here's where the joy of living really started to kick in for me. Like my channels are cleared. I'm working this AA thing. I'm present. I'm part of it. It's happening. I'm connected to all the people in my life again. I'm restored to sanity. What a gift. That's the joy of living. That was when I was living in my spiritual awakening and early sobriety. I got to do amends. My poor little son, that you heard what kind of mom I was. And what am I going to do with this kid to make that right? And what I did was, I just showed up for him. I went to parent teacher meetings. I kept a job. He wanted to play baseball. I took him to baseball. That first year of sobriety, I had actually been able to hold a job again, and I got a tax return. And my very formal kind of amends was, this is his money, and I started a bank account, and that money was for whatever he needed. If he, like I said, if he wanted to play baseball, I had money for the uniform. It's expensive out here. I mean, it's like hundreds of dollars to put your kid in that, and I was able to do that for him, and just start to separate. Like, I am a servant. As a parent, it's I'm a servant. If he has a need, I am to fill it. It's not you will get whatever is left over after I take care of all of my needs. And with that tax return, we went on a little road trip. I live in Northern California, the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and we drove 5 hours in the little hoopty Honda, the little, crappy used car, packed it up, and we went to Universal Studios, which is an amusement park. And, I just took him out to have fun. And we had so much fun. And I got to do AA meetings on the road. I got to go to meetings in Los Angeles as a sober single mom before he would get up. And he learned to trust me again. And talk about healing, talk about healing. We do these amends to right our wrongs, but the relief we get from them when done correctly is just unpredictably fulfilling. And I get to still do that with him. I got to make amends with my grandma. Another tax return. I paid her back all the money I stole from her, and this sweet woman took the money and flew out to California to visit me. And we had healing. And we sat in, this one always makes me cry. We sat in the yard of my house, and it's just gorgeous out here. And we're in the valley of a huge mountain, and we're just quiet and just peaceful with each other. And she looks at me and says, "I'm so sorry I was so mean to you." And I think, what? You were mean to me? All the things I did to you? But I want to tell you what happened in that moment was that she realized, as a result of steps and spiritual work, I had been restored to sanity, that her granddaughter was returned, the granddaughter that she knew, the one that had a zest for living and was actually a good person with a good heart. She saw that that was me and I was back. I'm so grateful I got to make that amends, because she got dementia and passed away not very long after that. And I almost missed it. I almost missed it. One more year drinking and I would have missed that opportunity to heal. And because I made that amends, and learned about service and constantly owe a debt to Phil to that kind of behavior in my life. Like there was a lady in my home group, she was 90 years old and blind, lived on her own, badass, single lady, all her life, real badass. And I would drive her to home group and I would go in and put her earrings on and like help her with her cell phone. And like, God, that was such a healing moment for me. Because my grandmama lived in Philadelphia and I couldn't go back and do things for her in her life, but I could do it with Donna Baby. And what I realized was having the integrity that I learned through the steps that I got to heal even deeper, like that amends and damage I had done about the way I look at myself because of what I did to my grandma got to be healed through this weird, random way of doing service to another woman. And what a gift. Like you just don't get to pick where this stuff shows up, but you have to be spiritually awake to welcome it when it presents itself. Um, I got out of that relationship with that dude and I was single lady for a little bit in AA, and just like June Lee said, I just show up to service and in this most random ad hoc committee meeting, I'm going to land on, it was an ad hoc committee for our central office intergroup to restructure our bylaws. And what the hell is that? I don't even know. Nothing ever came of it. But it was me and like 12 angry old timers meeting once a month to just like review different service structure bylaws. I had no idea what was going on. I was so new in sobriety, but I just went because I just wanted to learn. And one day, this mysterious gentleman shows up to the group. He had just moved back to the area from Hollywood and was asked to come there by a sponsor. And we met and got married. We've been married 8 years now. And our relationship is unlike any that I've ever had. I stay spiritually awake in this relationship and I trust that my needs are going to be met, and I focus more on how can I be a servant to my partner, and I've got the right person in my life because that's how God works, gives us what we're needing if we're showing up and looking for it. And he does the same. We have a very spiritually based relationship, and it's a love that I've never known, and I'm just so grateful to have it. I made little notes because I want to make sure I get everything out. I think I have about 8 more minutes, and I want to talk to you. So a lot of my sobriety, I'm like a doer, right? Like I think there's 2 ways you can show up to AA, where like you're just a crazy, let's do it. Give me all this service commitments. Let me do all this stuff. Or you're very still and you really focus on like, how can I always think of like the still people as like ones that are very good at prayer and meditation and like can go directly to looking for a relationship with a higher power. I'm not that kind of person. That's very uncomfortable to me. But I have always been able to do action. And in my sobriety, by doing those action, there's a line in the big book I love so much. It's talk about what are you packing into the stream of life, and that stream of life for me has gotten very big. And sometimes it can swing back and be the thing that's making me crazy, right? I'm getting older. I can't keep up the pace that I used to be able to when I was in my 20s or even my early 30s. And like just kind of adjusting when I can truly show up for has been a challenge. But what I do know is that when I show up in a way of service, I've always gotten a service commitment at my home group. I always have a sponsor, and I always sponsor women. And I'm not saying you have to do all that stuff. Maybe you don't have the opportunity. But just like being available and willing to do it, I think is really the key. What happened to me is that when I'm doing that stuff, this byproduct occurs where I'm not thinking about myself. And then a natural relationship with God just blossoms. It's just in there. And by doing those actions, it clears away all the crap that allows it to just kind of be there and strengthen. And the stream of life has been a really, really beautiful thing for me. I'm a nurse by trade. When you drink the way I do, it leads you to other things. And I lost my nursing license, pulled away from me twice. I should have gone to federal prison for the things I've done. I shouldn't have a relationship or custody of my son at all. Probably shouldn't even be alive. And I'm grateful that we don't always get what we deserve. It can be a good thing. So if you think this is not fair, maybe you should think it could be a good thing. And in my sobriety, I've been able to get my nursing license back, make amends to the Board of Nursing. I've been able to get an education. I went back to school. I got a bachelor's in nursing. I just got a certificate as a public health nurse. I actually just got a promotion. Like all this stuff, it's irrelevant though. It's irrelevant, but it's a gift of sobriety. The fact of the matter is, I have learned how to be part of life again. I really have been given great examples of, being restored to sanity, like I mentioned. But what I want to tell you about, the joy of living, like I started out saying, like it's not all about that stuff. It's really about how do I remain spiritually awake? The theme of the 12th step. What is the 12th step? It tells us that we have to carry this message to other alcoholics. What message? How to have a spiritual awakening. It's the only way out, you guys. It really is. And it sounds so crazy, but it's just been true for me and all the other great miracles that I've gotten to observe by being a member of AA. And to practice these principles in all our affairs. Well, that's a trap. So practice these principles in all our affairs means do all the steps all the time, no matter where you are, whether you're in an AA meeting, at work, at home, at a family party, out with your girlfriends, all the principles, all the steps, all the time. And that's hard, and you also hear us talk about progress, not perfection in AA. What that means is like, you got to shoot for the stars, baby. So when you fall, because we're never going to be perfect, we're still moving forward. And what I've learned over the last year, I really relate it to Shannon talking about how the biggest, most intense disaster of my lifetime, this COVID pandemic, has given me so much positivity and so much gratitude, and just opened my eyes to like deeper ways of being a spiritual person in the world that I would never have done the work around. Never. I mean, I think everybody gets triple credit for this past year and a half of sobriety, because if you're still here and sober, you had to work your ass off. You really did. For me, what happened is, I told you I'm a nurse by trade, so guess what that means? I get to be a healthcare professional during a global pandemic. And what that looked like out here was real scary, terrifying. I mean, we were really kind of blind to what was happening until it was, again, like your alcoholism, a little too late to do anything about it. And the world just shut down overnight. And I love horror movies, and like I had to keep going to work, and it felt like Walking Dead, like a zombie TV apocalypse, like nobody anywhere. And I was terrified. I was terrified to go out of my house. And I just knew I had to suit up and show up. And I would go to work, and we wouldn't have what we needed. We didn't have masks, we didn't have gloves, we didn't have hand sanitizer, we didn't have soap, we didn't have anything. And just knowing, like, this is basic 101 stuff. We learned this the first day of nursing school. This stuff is essential for us to be okay in what we're doing. That's terrifying, you know? And what I got to do, I'm a manager, is like use AA principles for myself and then take it to my team. And help them practice, help them practice just being in acceptance, just stay in the moment. A lot of what worked for me is don't go further than this moment. I have a little post-it on my board here. It says, don't waste the best minutes being afraid, And what I know is that fear can take me to some dark places. And, I had to use the principles of AA. I had to go deeper in trusting God than ever before. I had to be so forgiving of other people's behavior, because scared people are assholes. We act like assholes, myself included. And I had to learn to be so forgiving of other people, and just really patient and loving and kind and tolerant and critical of myself. You get a pass, but what could I do better at the end of the day? And how much more am I willing to give? Can I give more? Can I give more? And if I'm right in the present, the answer is yes. And the answer is always, you're okay. You're okay right now. What survival techniques that had become to be for me. And we made it. We made it. So anyway, I'm going to shut it down here, but I just am so grateful for the opportunity to be here. I love AA. It has made the world so manageable for me, and it's not this big scary place. I listen to Shannon talk about how she moved all over, and I'm like, man, that's always what I wanted to do. And I was frozen in fear about it. I couldn't even get out of my own little neighborhood, not till sobriety. And AA has really given me the tools for living and the joy of living. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Meg. Thank you very much for your wonderful, powerful sharing. I would just like to share a few things which I could connect to. Many, many trials and tribulations and dishonesty during my drinking days. Resentment, short-tempered. Is that a joy of living? No, it's not. It's about living and being spiritually awake. I needed to surrender. I needed to make amends. I needed to stop being selfish. And I needed to make an inventory about my past and follow it through, bringing it to a closure as much as possible with the guidance of my sponsor, my higher power, and this program. This program has helped me to change the way I think and feel and realize the damage I have done in the past. What's helped me? 12 steps and carrying the message to others. And I have to keep practicing my principles in all my affairs. Thank you so much for your wonderful sharing. I'm going to stop the recording now, friends. And please feel free to raise your hand